All right, we are going to do factoring common binomials. So there's a lot on this page, and this starting to explain it might seem a little bit confusing. I promise you it's super, super, super simple. Now, typically, textbooks and such would just jump right into the next lesson we're going to do, which is factor by grouping. But I like to put this lesson before it because this is kind of the middle step. And it's really easy, but whenever you try to do everything all at once, it can be kind of confusing. So we're going to master this middle step first, and then hopefully when we move into the next lesson, it'll be a little bit easier because you'll already be comfortable with this part. So if you have factors that are common, you can go ahead and factor them out. So if we had all numbers, this is kind of similar to it's kind of backwards from the distributive property. So if you had 4 times 7 plus 3 times 7, we could just write that as 4 times the quantity, or 7 times the quantity, 4 plus 3. And those two things are equal. If you don't believe me, 4 times 7 is 28. 3 times 7 is 21. 4 plus 3, right, order of operations, says parentheses first, so 4 plus 3 is 7. 28 plus 21 is 49. 7 times 7 is 49. Okay, that's just a distributive property, kind of backwards. So what we do is we take that and we apply it to polynomials. So if you had something that said 9x squared times the quantity of x plus 3 minus 8 times the quantity of x plus 3, you can notice they have the same factor. Just like the 7 was the same up here, the x plus 3 is the same. So what we did with the 7, well, we just put that outside. So we're going to take the x plus 3 that's the same, and we're going to put that down only once. And then what did we do? We took, I have too many colors. We took the 4, and we took the plus 3, and we multiplied, or we put those into the other term, or the other factor. So we're going to take our 9x squared, and we're going to take our minus 8, and we're going to put those together into the other factor. It's really, really, really easy. What's inside the parentheses will be the same. You put that in the first set of parentheses, the first factor. You take what is supposed to be distributed, what's on the outside of the parentheses, and you just put those two terms together into the other factor. Now, here's one thing you have to watch out for. If the common factors, meaning what's inside the parentheses, if they're opposites. So like here you have x minus 2 and 2 minus x. Notice x minus 2 and 2 minus x are not the same thing, right? If that was addition, you could say x plus 2, 2 plus x, and it's the same. Subtraction doesn't work that way. We know that. So those are not the same thing. Those are actually opposites. Right, one of them will equal positive, the other one will equal negative. So for example, if you put 4 in for x, 4 minus 2 is 2, 2 minus 4 is negative 2. They're always in equal opposites. Well, we know that to make opposites the same, you can just multiply one of them by negative 1. Okay? So what we're going to do is we can take the first term and we can multiply it by negative 1. So that means this is going to become a positive 2x, and inside the parentheses, you flip, make it the opposite. So instead of x minus 2, now it's 2 minus x. Or you could decide to take the second term and make it opposite. So instead of 5, you're going to make that a negative 5. And instead of 2 minus x, you're going to make it x minus 2. It doesn't matter which term you want to do it with. I'm going to tell you my preferences. I like to keep things as x minus a number, so I always change that term. So I would actually go with this second option because I would want it to say x minus 2 instead of 2 minus x. That's just a personal preference. It really doesn't matter which one you do. So you guys can figure out on your own. Maybe you like to change the first term all the time or whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, once you do this, we have, instead of -2, x minus 2, now we have 2x, 2 minus x. Okay, so I took this term and I switched it with my new term. So now my 2 minus x's are the same. From there, you just do the same thing. So now we have 2 minus x. And then, we pick another color. You have your 2x plus 5. Okay. Over here, so I took my 5 times 2 minus x, and I turned it into -5 times x minus 2. So that's what I have here, -5 times x minus 2. Well, now my x minus 2's are the same, so I can put those together. And I can take my -2x minus 5, and I can put it in the other term. Okay? This answer, oh, sorry, I'm going to pick a different color. This answer and this answer are the same thing. When you FOIL those, you'll get the exact same thing. It's just changing which numbers are negative. So you can see in this first one, the only thing that's negative is the x. And in the second one, the only thing that's positive is the x. So it's just completely flipping your positives and negatives. All right. I have, I think, 3 or 4. I might have 4 examples to go through. All right, so this one's easy because x minus 7, x minus 7. They're the same. So we're going to put that into our first term, our first factor, sorry. And then our second factor, we're going to use what's outside the parentheses. So we have 6x squared plus 4. Okay. Again, this one's simple because x plus 7 and x plus 7 is the same. So we put that into our first factor. Now, notice we have x squared and we have plus nothing. Well, what do we know is always outside of the parentheses being multiplied when there's nothing there? There's always an invisible 1. It can't be 0 because if we multiply by 0, the x plus 7 would go away. So it has to be a 1. A 1 is the only number that doesn't change multiplication. So on the other one, we have x squared plus 1. Okay. Now we get into our opposites. 2 minus x, x minus 2. Pick which term you want to change. I am going to go ahead and change the first term. So I'm going to make it positive x squared, positive 6x squared, and then I'm going to flip the inside. You always have to change the opposite of this and the opposite of this. This one stays the same. Okay. And now, x minus 2 and 6x squared plus 5. One more. We have x minus 3 and we have 3 minus x. Again, take your pick. I'm going to switch this one because I like to have x minus 3. So my first term is going to stay the same. My second term, I need to make this plus a positive 2. And then I need to flip the inside of my parentheses. Now, these are the same. And my other one has x plus 2. Alright, so it might seem a little confusing as you first start, but once you get the hang of it, you'll go through these super fast. And like I said, then we'll get to go on and kind of get the step before this and kind of bring it back to polynomials. Alright, or quadratics, I mean. Okay, good luck, and let me know if you need help.